Hi, good evening. So it's time for our class, our free online free graphic design masterclass, and I really want to thank you for being there with me all through the journey of my noise making. Trying to bring people down here to come and learn what I have to share. And this is it. This is the day. This is the moment where we get to discuss. So, my name is Noble Cyril. I was born Amugo Noble C, and I'm from Abia State, Nigeria. I'm a graphic designer, a brand developer, and I've spent years in graphic design. And so, like I said in my earlier video that I posted about what we are doing right now, I said I've spent over 10 years in graphic design, and in the process of time, I think I have earned the right to come up in your faces to talk to you about graphic design. Now, it's not about the number of years that has been spent in this industry, but it's about the value I've been able to acquire in the process of time. Thank you, Uncle Jim, for watching. I really do appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. So tonight, I want us to talk about a few things that are very important to every graphic designer. But just to start it off, when we talk about graphic design and graphic designer, a lot of person get to mix it with a few things that I will still open up to you about. So the big question is, who is a graphic designer? Now, the easiest way a lot of people get to find out things is when they Google things. So if you Google it, it's going to give you a lot of definitions like that, but I'd prefer to describe it or define it in my own terms. I'd prefer to say a graphic designer is a problem solver, someone who really finds a systematic approach to solve problems. You know, we live in a world where we are more attracted to the things we see than the things we hear. In recent times, you find out that a lot of the things that go on now has been spurred on by the things we see. So, a graphic designer is a person who usually gets the information he needs to pass across, and then use a lot of symbols, a lot of images, symbols to pass the message across. So that is basically who a graphic designer is. So like I know very well, graphic design is the process of visual communication and problem solving. Now that is just what it is: visual communication and problem solving. Let's paint a picture here, just a picture in a moment. Let's say you're running a business, and the success of business dwells mostly on the success of your advertorials. And so I own for instance, now I own a bakery or a pastry firm where I do a lot of baking here and there, and then I need to market my product. So I would traditionally want to go for a flyer, because a flyer goes even to places you don't go to. Advertorials, now that's what they call them. So when I need a flyer, who I go to is a graphic designer. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person is a full-time graphic designer, but someone who can manipulate softwares and ideas and put things together to make sure they pass the information across to you. That's who a graphic designer is. And then a graphic designer as well has the sole duty to first listen to you, find out what you actually really want, and then look for the best way to pass it across to you, the owner of the project. And so, quickly, let's move on to something very important as well. If you are a graphic designer, you find out that you'll be needing some tools to work with. Over time, the advent of technology in this our world now has tried to refine a lot of things. First of all is the idea of becoming digital. Over time, you see people moving from being artists in the street. By artists, okay, the people who do the painting, the drawings, the paintings, and yeah, people who do signposts, a lot of them in the street. So many of the things they have always been doing with time have been manual. All right, manual in the sense that they try to cut out stencils. Yeah, that's what they call them, cut out. When you draw something on paper, you cut it out and then place it on a surface and kind of use paint and foam or whatever you want to use to damp on them to make impressions on surfaces. Now that has migrated into the digital world, and so for you to call yourself a graphic designer, it means that you have a lot of tools you need to use to make sure that your work go on fine, and that is the softwares you need to use to work, and that's the computer you'll be needing, and then a lot of them happen upstairs. So let's talk about how to find a graphic design software comfortable enough for you. First of all, this has become one of the most important things to talk about when you're talking about graphic design, because of reusability. I think I would like to use that word, reusability. Let me also paint another picture. I like trying to trigger your imagination so you can follow what I'm saying. Trying to dissect or bring a dichotomy to to open up an argument about what graphic design software is the best, I think that brings an issue. It brings an issue because you really can't say which graphic design software is the best. It's really not nice to try and keep finding out which is the best, which is bigger, which is better. The best thing to find out is which is more comfortable for you. Now, for you to find out what is more comfortable for you, it has to deal with you as a person. How creative are you? How fast can you be? Now, to do all of that, there are a lot of things that contribute to finding out which graphic design software is comfortable enough for you. I use a lot of the Adobe products like Photoshop. I use Illustrator just a bit, and then I use one from the Corel family as well. That's CorelDRAW. Now, if you want to become a graphic designer, first you need to learn how to use a graphic design software. That is an established fact. Now the question becomes, which would you want to learn? Let's bring the case of Photoshop and CorelDRAW into play. Now, originally, a lot of people argue about it, but this is the real fact. Now, originally, Photoshop was not programmed to be a graphic design software. Originally, it was programmed to be a photo editing software mainly, originally. And then you come over to CorelDRAW. CorelDRAW is a vector graphic software. It was designed mainly for graphic design. Now, if you, as a Nigerian, you know what the deal is. The deal is, you go to a computer training institute, you start learning how to use the softwares, so naturally the progression in the Nigerian Computer Training Institute is this. After the whole Microsoft Word appreciation thing, you move over to CorelDRAW. That is what we see. That is what is obtainable in the Nigerian industry now. If you move over to CorelDRAW, gradually CorelDRAW becomes the mainstay for you in graphic design. Now, if for instance you didn't go through the traditional, how do I put it? You didn't go through the traditional ICT firms to learn, and then somehow you stumble upon someone who would want to teach you graphic design, and then the person says, I want to teach you graphic design, or you approach the person, I want to learn graphic design, and what the person uses well is Photoshop. What that means for you is that you're going to be learning Photoshop. And then learning Photoshop now makes it look like Photoshop is the main thing. As a graphic designer, Photoshop has now become the main thing for you, the main software for you. And now the more you learn and use a thing, the more comfortable it becomes for you. So this is what I'm saying to you. In as much as I understand that you can use more than one software to deliver a project, I've been saying it is something I've been doing for some time. Right now, I want to make it very clear to you as well that for you to deliver a project, you can use CorelDRAW, Photoshop, and Adobe Illustrator on the same project. For instance, you want to do a flyer. Let's do it this way. You want to do a flyer, but the image is coming with a background. Now, for you to come with a background, you know you need to remove the background based on the concept you want to push into your designs. That brings Photoshop into play. Not that you cannot remove backgrounds in CorelDRAW or Inkscape or GIMP, mention it, or what's the other one? Pixel. Now, not that you can't do all of those things there, but there are softwares that are more efficient in doing one thing than the other. And so you naturally gravitate towards Photoshop to help you remove backgrounds. And when they are done, you save it as PNG. That's portable nature graphics. Yeah, you save it as PNG. PNG image format is the format where, for instance, when you remove a background from an image, like, okay, you can see me now. There's a background, there's the curtain, there's the AC, there's the roof, and all of that. And then you want to peel everything off and have only me staying like this. And then you want to use the same image for designs. You peel off the background. In order for you to have that image without the background, you need to save it as a PNG. And now when you save as a PNG, because you started out learning CorelDRAW, you now take it to CorelDRAW and continue your work in CorelDRAW. So you see, you have now used CorelDRAW and Photoshop on a particular project. Now, let's try and bring Illustrator in. Now, somehow along the line, you were trying to learn logo design, and someone told you for you to do logo design, you must learn Illustrator and stuff. Why? Because Illustrator is basically for vector images. So a lot of the things you see that are illustrations like that, we are done with Adobe Illustrator. And so you want to do something that has to do with illustrations. Not that you cannot do illustrations with Photoshop or CorelDRAW, but it becomes very comfortable based on how the software was programmed that you use Illustrator to do your designs. Now, when you're done using Illustrator to do your illustrations, you now bring them also back to CorelDRAW or Photoshop, as the case may be. So you see, there is really no software more useful or more important than the other. It all boils down to you. First of all, how you started out as a graphic designer, and who taught you what. So if you use CorelDRAW more, you could now say it is the best for you. If you use Photoshop more, you could now say it is the best for you. But for you to choose some of these things, you need to consider that you can use, first of all, you can use two softwares at the same time to deliver a project. You don't have to be stereotypical. You don't have to focus just on one software. And secondly, you also should know that no software is better than the other. However, when you assuming, okay, let's say as you're like me, you know how to find your way around a lot of these softwares. For you to really dwell on one, you have to consider flexibility, the flexibility of the software. Okay, let's still go back to the Photoshop CorelDRAW thing. For you to use Photoshop, you need to very, very comfortable with the manipulation of layers. Everything, every single dot you drop in Photoshop, the design environment, is placed on its own layer. Now, you need to keep dragging layers up and down to make sure they come up or go back, as the case may be. And then, CorelDRAW doesn't have layer. CorelDRAW is flexible enough to help you boil everything down to the same page. You could say it has layers, yes, but you could really do design without, you could do design with the software for a year without even recognizing the layer part of CorelDRAW. So, how flexible, this is the question, how flexible is the software you're using for you? How flexible is the software you're using for you? Because it is the flexibility of the software that will make you keep coming back to it. Uncle Jim is watching live, and Uncle Jim is a graphic designer I know very well, and Uncle Jim uses Photoshop big time. There are a lot of things he does in Photoshop that I look at them and marvel. First of all, on how he's able to manage the weight of the project. Now, if I'm using CorelDRAW and Uncle Jim watching live is using Photoshop, we can achieve the same thing. But then one tend to be heavier than other because of some of the things that come into play in the coding of the softwares. So to avoid all the big jargons, what I'm saying is consider how flexible a particular software is for you. If you're very comfortable with the manipulation of layers in Photoshop, then you can go ahead with Photoshop. Or the manipulation of layers in, let's say, Illustrator. The fact is, everything Adobe deals with layers. So if you're very comfortable with manipulating layers like that, then Photoshop is the way for you. The second thing we need to consider is color. I would like to call it color management. So many of these softwares, you see, color is one universal language in our industry. Now, so many of these softwares use color, all of them use color. Let's put it that way. All of them use color because without color, you really cannot produce. But then, the color management in one software is definitely going to blow your mind when you're comparing the color management in another software. Let us bring back Photoshop and CorelDRAW. We will gradually get into mobile applications that help you do graphic design. But for now, this is the mainstream graphic design softwares in our industry right now. In the Nigerian graphic design industry, you could argue about a lot of persons that use InDesign, Illustrator, Microsoft Paint. You could talk about Cinema 4D. Is it 4D or 3D? You could talk about Maya, a lot of them. But in the regular industry here, there is this fight between CorelDRAW and Photoshop. Now, let's talk about color as it regards these two softwares. The color from experience, color quality of Photoshop is way higher than that of CorelDRAW. The color quality of any job you do with Photoshop is top notch compared to CorelDRAW. Now, that does not mean that CorelDRAW doesn't have good color quality. If you are somebody who is very conversant with color, you would be able to locate to pinpoint a particular color code you need to use and work in CorelDRAW, just as it is in Photoshop. But in production, producing something of, let's say, the color red, yes, the red of Photoshop is a little different from the red of CorelDRAW. And so, if you're trying to consider color, then you will naturally gravitate towards Photoshop. But if you're working in, okay, if a lot of the things you do get to do with the print industry, let's say you're working in a newspaper firm or even a printing press, that a lot of the things you do, you don't get to take them online. Like, okay, this is the era of digital marketing. And now a lot of the things you do, you don't send them online, you don't post them online for digital marketing. You produce them on flex banners, roll-ups, flyers, and packaging materials. The industry here is very comfortable with CorelDRAW, and so you will tend to use CorelDRAW more and ignore that higher advantage Photoshop has over CorelDRAW in color. Now, the next thing to also consider in choosing a software that is very comfortable for you is image management. In image management, I would like to differentiate them and put them in categories of bitmap and vector. Now, bitmap is just an image, a flat image, 2D image. Now, a vector are shapes or sizes. No, not sizes now. Let's just leave them as shapes that you draw in the software itself. Now, you can zoom vector to 1000% zoom level and it will not pixelate or disintegrate. But when it comes to bitmaps, you can zoom it to, if you try 1000 zoom level, definitely it's going to pixelate. By pixelation, I mean you will get to start seeing the image divide into dots and dots, little blocks of colors like that. Now, that is that for image management. If you're editing a picture, please be comfortable enough to use Photoshop. Do not come to CorelDRAW and expect your productivity to be the same thing that you will get in Photoshop. As a graphic designer, I believe I'm talking to graphic designers tonight. So if I'm talking to graphic designers tonight, I want to still believe that they understand what I'm talking about. So when you're working with images now, pictures, you get to look at my face now. It's not looking very bright, yeah? Photoshop can help you turn me into an albino. Much respect to them. Photoshop can turn my image into something else. That's Photoshop. It can change the color of this shirt. It can change the color of everything, the earphone and stuff. CorelDRAW will find it very difficult to do that. So when you're dealing with managing image and working with pictures, Photoshop is better. So if the thing you do dwells more on picture management, you will naturally gravitate to Photoshop. Now, if the thing you do dwell more on vectors, like all the drawings, you could naturally gravitate towards CorelDRAW and Illustrator. But CorelDRAW becomes even quite easier than Illustrator in the mainstream graphic design industry. All right, the next thing to consider is what you have in mind to design. You're a graphic designer or a branding expert. Branding is way bigger than graphic design, by the way. But it is graphic design is just a little section of branding, because branding moves even higher up the chain. Let's say you're a graphic designer and I am a customer, a client now. I come to you because I'm trying to run a magazine company and I do not have idea about graphics. All right. So I come to you to seek your professional opinion and your service. Now, you have an information from me. The information you have from me is that I want to do a magazine. You have it in mind. And then you will now start trying to choose on your own what kind of software to use. Now, if you're so comfortable with Photoshop, you will dive into Photoshop and start using it for that project. If you're so comfortable with CorelDRAW, you will dive into using it for that project. So what kind of project you are about to handle should also be considered while choosing a software that is comfortable for you. Now, this has to do with people who are at the crossroads of which software to learn. So try and understand why you want to move into graphic design, the kind of services you want to be rendering in the area of graphic design. Because an image enhancer, a photo editor, someone who works maybe in a photo studio, a photo lab, or something that enhances image should be using that Photoshop more. And then someone who works in a printing press, naturally in the Nigerian printing industry, you gravitate towards CorelDRAW. It has affected me so much because I've worked a long time in a printing press in that section that I am very okay with Photoshop. But then, spending so much time in the print industry had made me so comfortable with CorelDRAW that sometimes if you bring me to Photoshop, I would need to take my time, settle down, and work on a project. I'll be faster, very much faster, 50% faster, yes, 50% faster with CorelDRAW than I would be with Photoshop. But if I devote enough time, I would deliver a better project with Photoshop than I would with CorelDRAW. So you consider time and you consider what you want to work on before you choose a software that is comfortable for you. And then lastly, the problem of integration. Yes, the problem of integration. You see, this is one thing we've been talking about, but we've been masking it around. If you want to learn graphic design, or you're a graphic designer but you're trying to choose one to do well on in mainstream, you need to also consider integration. By integration, I mean, if I use this software to work on a project, will I be able to open that project in another software? Or I have done a design for a backdrop. There is an event someone is hosting and I need to do the red carpet backdrop. I do it with Photoshop. How am I going to be able to save it for a machine, the printing machine, to work with it? That is one. Now, knowing fully well that a lot of those softwares have been integrated so well with CorelDRAW, it now beholds on you to save your project in a format where CorelDRAW can open it. If you're working with any Adobe software, it is safest for you to save as a PNG, a JPEG, or PDF. Now, these three things can be integrated with CorelDRAW, which is one thing the Nigerian printing industry appreciates so much. So because the reason is this, a lot of persons out there, believe me, a lot of persons out there are really not comfortable with any Adobe software. So if you're very comfortable with Adobe software and you come to my establishment to do your printing, for instance, and I don't know anything about Adobe software, you wouldn't be able to do your project in my office. So it's important that you output your project. Why do I keep calling it project? Okay, let me say design now. It's important that you save your design in a format that it becomes readable for another software to work with. Okay, so we are actually running, and right now let's talk about how to narrow down your design idea. So before we proceed, if you have any question, you should be able just type it up in the comment section. I'll be able to see it and answer. And then before we end, I would like to bring one person up, somebody that will ask a question or two, so that you will be able to share your experience as well to others that will end up watching. Now, about narrowing down your design ideas. Designs can be overwhelming. Sometimes you will have so much concepts up in the head that you would want to bring down, but you cannot. Okay, let me put it in a different way. Sometimes you would have a lot of concepts in your head, and then you start getting confused about what concept to drop, what to do, what not to do. You want to do a roll-up banner design. You know roll-up banner, right? I want to do a roll-up banner design for a church. The church is hosting a program, or for a social event. Let's use Social Media Week Lagos. Yeah, let's use that as an example. And you're supposed to be presenting something. So you need a roll-up banner for your industry, your establishment. You go to a graphic designer to work on a project for you. Now, out of excitement and maybe identifying with your dreams, with your request, they will jump into the project without coming down to plan design, because designs are very much planned. You don't jump into a project, a design, you don't jump into it just like that because you know how to do graphic design. No. When you have a project that comes to you, thank you very much, Mr. Gilbert, for watching, for tuning in. I really appreciate you joining. Now, if you want to work on a project like that, you have to plan it. And so, if you are the graphic designer and you have a concept of, let's say, you have actually seen a design somewhere that you need to replicate, because it happens a lot of the times you get to replicate and it's red, it becomes so fine to you that you want to replicate because it's beautiful to you, and you want to give it out so that the person will be wowed with what you have produced. You may seem to be overloaded in the head. You may seem to be overwhelmed with a lot of concepts. And so it becomes very important that you begin to narrow things down so that it will be easier for you. Even for the most creative and productive person, designing anything can be very overwhelming. So it becomes important for you that you learn how to hack yourself. You know, the brain can be hacked, right? By hacking, I mean unlearning a lot of things so you can learn something new. Now, it becomes important for you that you begin to hack your brain so that you find out the best way to narrow down ideas. Now, narrowing down ideas can be called ideation. Ideation. You have you have a project, and a project usually would involve a lot of ideas. So you need to begin to cut down on the things that come your way so that you can work on it. Now, ideation is a creative process, the process of generating, developing, and communicating new ideas. It flows from inspiration. Number one, inspiration through innovation, development, and actualization. Inspiration, innovation, development, actualization. When you see a design, you, as the designer, you are inspired by it. Now, for me, basically, I like it when things are so simple. I don't like complicated designs. Complicated designs tend to overload you with a lot of things. This evening, I saw a design. Just this evening, I saw a design. It's actually a billboard design somewhere. The design was overloaded with so many colors that now the colors started distracting me from the message the billboard is trying to pass. I went to the capital of Abia State, Umuahia, some time ago. Now, in the city center, I go round, and what I saw tried to make me cry. That is putting it very lightly. You see a lot of designs that are overloaded with colors, overloaded with images, a lot of the images that don't have coherence. A lot of them are overloaded. Now, you as a graphic designer should know very well. You as a graphic designer, thank you very much, Rosemary Ojoma Adejo, for joining. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining. Now, as a graphic designer, you need to know that, first of all, you don't need to overload your designs. You need to help the client know how simplicity becomes important. Now, you're not pushing it straight to their throats. You're not pushing it down for them to believe. You need to be very flexible. If you're working with people in the public industry, you need to be very flexible. Now, you're not pushing any ideas down to their throats. If you work on designs like that, it may be beautiful and nice to your eye, but the consumer is the person who you're creating problems for. The billboard I saw this morning had a lot of green on it, a lot of orange and yellow. Green, orange, yellow. I don't have a problem with those color schemes. I really don't. But what I have a problem with is how you manage color in design. Let's talk about brand design, for instance. By brand design, let's say you're trying to, okay, I am fascinated by IT. Thank you very much, Rosemary, for sending out invites. I really do appreciate you. You're waiting for them down here. I am fascinated by IT, and I want to start up a firm that teaches people computer skills. It is this time in our lives that we are supposed to be bringing up the younger generations to help us mold the future. This is what I'm saying. You're bringing on the younger generation to help us mold the future. We are not molding the future alone. So I come up with this idea that I need you, a graphic designer, to help me generate a brand. I need you to help me design a logo. That's one. I need you also to help me design flyers, billboard possibly, and a lot of things. Now, you're excited, this is one maga that you really have to hit hard. That's okay. You are in business for people to come around. That's very okay. Now, as a designer, you are asked to do this. You don't just rush into the design. You have gotten an idea that you need to share with the owner of the project. The very first thing you need to do, of the overwhelming ideas that come to your mind at the moment, you need to start tuning them down, start fine-tuning the ideas together with the owner of the project so that you'll be able to come up to a reasonable design. For people in the branding industry, they understand very well that every single color has its own meaning. Every color scheme you see out there has its own meaning and interpretation. Maybe one of these days we get to talk about colors and what they mean and how to use them. But for tonight, for you to really narrow down your design ideas, you need to first of all plan, but understand that no idea is stupid. Remember, the project we are talking about is the brand development or identity. Yeah, let's leave brand alone. Let's call it identity at this moment, because brand is so large. It even scales into marketing and then the how you pass your message. Let's deal with the identity first. Let's say I've come to you for you to help me develop an identity, a logo, a flyer, a color scheme that will be very unique to what I'm doing. You should first of all the ideas that come to you, understand that no idea is stupid. And the next thing to do to narrow down your idea is to write them on ink, write them on paper. Now we are in a digital world, so there are sketch pads out there, so you are allowed to sketch things down. For instance, let's excuse me, we are on Facebook. Let's take the Facebook logo for instance. The Facebook logo is very simple. It's an F, but yet so complicated. It's just like the Nike logo. A lot of meanings can be attached to them. The Facebook logo can be seen as just a dummy F stuff. But whoever did that design can go ahead to tell you a lot of thought he put into the design and the concept he was trying to develop in the design. So for you to come up with a good logo, for instance, you need to start making sketches on paper. When you get to sketch things down, a lot of the things you sketch down, you get to discard them so that the best ones will come together. That is how to narrow things down. When you're working on a design, I've been a graphic designer for more than 10 years. And a lot of the times when I have some of these projects, I get to sketch them down. 9 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, your very first sketch or design doesn't end up being the best. So, and that is why you need to go through the process of putting them down so that you'll be able to find out which is the best, which is the best. The reason is because when it's up here, you don't have a way to compare. If I come up to you, I got a project of a lady who wanted to start juicing business, and so she needed a logo. Let's talk about the logo for a juicing business, a juicing firm. When you think about a juice, you think about a cup, right? The little cocktail cup. You think about that. That could illustrate it. You think about fruits. That could also help you illustrate a juicing firm. Now, when you start thinking about fruits, you start thinking about what kind of fruit do I use? How do I get this logo done? And then also, you can think of text to use illustrate the logo, just like we have the Facebook logo. Now, you have these three ideas: text, fruits, and cup. You get to put them down. When you put them down, it is no longer here. You start making comparison on paper. If I use this cup, manipulate it, because a graphic designer is a staunch manipulator. If I manipulate this cup in such a way that it becomes so nice to the eye and make it look like a logo, would anybody be able to understand that this logo is for a juicing firm or for a beer brewing company, if that is the case we are working on? That is one question you need to ask yourself. So when you're doing things like that, you find out that a lot of the problems you have upstairs, a lot of the clog that has gone on in your head about how to come up with a logo, you start bringing them together. Discard the unnecessary and work with the very necessary. Some time ago, I got the project of a music label in the US. It's called Ample Liberty Classic Entertainment. Now, it was given to me by my very dear friend. That logo took me much to design. To you, the logo may not make meaning. I see gradually we've moved into logo design, but don't worry, we are leaving logo alone for just in a moment. To you, the logo may not make any meaning. But to me, that did the design, I have a meaning in mind that kind of agreed with the meaning the person owning the logo has. So when I finished with the logo, it became very clear that this logo, for it to illustrate what we want it to illustrate, it doesn't have to be flat. So I made it, though it is flat, I made it look 3D. The owner loved the logo. I loved the logo. But the point I'm trying to make here now is that that logo wasn't the first I did. It wasn't. That was about the seventh logo. I'm not exaggerating. That was about the seventh logo I did. The logo, I didn't really charge much, but well, I think sometime in the line, somewhere down the line, we'll talk about pricing creativity. So that's it. When you begin to put things down, you find out that 9 times out of 10, the first sketch doesn't always end up the best sketch. So help your brain to remove all the cobwebs. You see all those cobwebs you put in yourself when you have information overload. Help your brain remove the cobwebs by bringing down your ideas on paper. And that's it. And then the next thing about narrowing down your design idea is to appreciate other people's design and then build on them. Okay, let me rephrase. I believe, and among the people tuned in, one of them must be in the branding industry. Now, for you to thrive in the branding industry, you will agree with me that first of all, you have seen someone's design and that you loved it so much that at a point in your next project, you would want to integrate what you've seen. No design is stupid. Why? Because you do not know the idea that went into the design. Now, when you see someone's idea, someone's design, first of all, you need to appreciate at least the effort put into designing it. That's the first thing to do. And then you now that wants to illustrate that thing you've seen in your next project, you need to build on and perfect the design that you saw. The design the person let out, you as a creative person must see somewhere the person may have slipped off a little bit. You must see somewhere the person could have done better. And so you, while you're working, you try to first appreciate their designs and then make your next project become a little better than the design you saw. Now, I work in the industry where a lot of persons bring in their designs for us to print out. Now, I've seen a lot of designs. Believe me, I have seen designs that knocked me out. And I've also seen designs that, oh, what is this? Now, there are amateurs in the industry, granted. And then there are professionals in the industry, granted. Now, even while you have become a professional, it is important that you come and stay in between. You're not keeping yourself so high up the ladder as a professional, and you're not bringing yourself so down the pecking order as an amateur. You are at the center. At the center in the sense that when you see the design work of other of your professionals, when you see their work, you appreciate it. Sometimes you get to reach out to them. This design you did is amazing, when you see things like that. And then secondly, from an amateur point of view, while you appreciate their designs, you get to think about the ways to make your next project better if you must integrate something from that design. So that is one other way of narrowing down design ideas. Think about their design. How can you make it better so that you'll be able to deliver a good project? Now that's it. Lastly, on how to narrow down design ideas, we'll be talking about being fully aware of the context of your design. Now, you're working on a funeral poster. I don't know how I get to bring up weird examples like that, but it's real. We're an industry where we thrive. When people are happy, we thrive and give them goodwill messages. You give them happy birthday cards, wedding cards, invitation cards. Oh well, when someone dies, well, you're still there to funny enough, you're there to do the burial poster, the funeral brochures and stuff. Just this week I've worked on about 2 or 3 funeral brochures. Now, you must be aware of the context of what you're doing, of the kind of design you're doing. You cannot be doing a funeral brochure like a flyer, a church flyer. So many people, like the last client, told me she wanted that funeral brochure. In fact, actually, we are still on the project. She wanted the funeral brochure to look like a magazine. The person don't die now. When she was alive, you couldn't take her to a magazine cover. Hello. Why try to force them on a magazine cover just because they don't die? You know? But people want what they want. So, a billboard design will look different from a flyer design. A lot of people come to me, I want a flyer, I want a banner that you will use the same design as a flyer. I'll be like, nah, wow. This is what you really want. He said, I said, okay, I'll give you what you want if that's really what you want. But what if we do this? What if we tweak it a little bit to look more like a flyer? Because a 5 feet by 4 feet banner, a 5 feet by 4 feet banner, that's measuring in feet now, can also be resized to a flyer, an A5 flyer. But then, because you're working on a flyer, you need to make a little tweaks to fit into what a flyer should look like. There is no stereotype as to how a flyer should look or stuff, but you should know that no matter what you're designing, you're passing an information. So you cannot pass a flyer information like you pass a billboard information. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. And then the next is you need to understand the audience, the consumers. I think that's the final thing we would talk about, because we have dwelt on this so much that there is a lot to talk about. But lastly, on the idea of narrowing down design ideas, you need to find out who the consumer is. Let's take up a popular brand, for instance. Let's take up GoTV and Power Oil. I am that observant. GoTV, Power Oil. The design of these two industries look somehow alike because of their color choices. If you have a GoTV at home, go and look at the pack. You'd see white, you see red, you see green, you see yellow. If you have Power Oil in your kitchen, if that's what you're using, you'll see green, you see yellow. Now, it makes them similar in their choices of color. But you cannot do the design for a Power Oil on a GoTV pack. Why? The audience is different. The nursing mother who is cooking in the kitchen becomes the consumer for the Power Oil. The same nursing mother in the living room watching the television using the GoTV becomes the consumer for the GoTV. Now, the same person is consuming the two products, but in the mindset, it becomes different. Because I want to believe that when a woman leaves the kitchen and enters another room, let's say the living room, the mind is tuned off from cooking to living room standard. Now, even if she has something on the fire, definitely her mind will be remembering, but she cannot be seeing what she's cooking on the TV. And so, design having the consumer in mind. Design knowing that you are not the person that is going to consume it finally. So please, it is very important that you as a graphic designer or a brand personnel or even a marketer, even if you're a marketer, you should know that there are marketing strategies that work for men and marketing strategies that work for ladies. You should also know that the marketing strategy you would use to penetrate a church is definitely going to be different from the marketing strategy you use to penetrate a school or even a hospital. Because if you want to market a product to the hospital, first of all, you need to go there with sympathy. That is a fact. You cannot go to a hospital with the mind you go to a church with. If you're going to a church to market a product, the spirituality in you will come out. That's the deal. So that they will know this one is one of us. Cool, that's it. The mindset you use to go to a hospital becomes different. Because in a hospital, definitely you're seeing someone who is suffering from something. So you're going to be needing a lot of sympathy. Thank you very much. You're going to be needing a lot of sympathy to go with you. If I am marketing a drug that is supposed to help cure, what's the regular sickness Nigerians have? Malaria. I don't need to look for it more. Nigerians suffer malaria. You see, in the past month, I've been hit so hard. I don't even know if it's stress that's causing malaria or even the mosquito itself. The malaria is just there. So, if you're coming to me to market to me a product you used to sell, I would use to treat malaria. You wouldn't come and tell me, my brother, praise the Lord. It is well. This is your sickness. I have one medicine that can treat it too. No, 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 no. I'll see you being religious. Yes, I'll see you as someone being religious. I won't even listen to you. You understand? So, we are not talking about marketing, by the way. I was just trying to talk about how to narrow down ideas. So that's it. Consider your final consumer before you do your design. 1 minute. I don't have a cup, don't mind me. Okay, the next is the secret every top level designer should know. We are moving, and I don't want to waste your time. We are almost done. Number one secret, quickly: pretty doesn't always count. Let me slow down and bring it back. Pretty doesn't always count. Let me bring it back. How beautiful the body of a car is doesn't always define how beautiful the interior is. Okay. How nice and sleek a phone is, a mobile phone, a smartphone is, does not always tell you how fast and how efficient the mobile phone will be. So if you're doing a design for me, you're handling my project, I'm running a school, and I come to you to do a design for me. You do design, and it's let's say it's a daycare center, and then you design with Teletubbies. You know those little cartoon stuff. It's beautiful. You choose all the interactive colors. It's beautiful to you. It's awesome. You're so comfortable. I've done the best design. He's gonna love it. And I come. I see your design. I don't like it. Pure and simple. How are you going to feel? I have done amazing designs that the owner of the design, on seeing the design, you're anticipating this, he's going to like it. You have to smile all over your face, and I don't like it. You'll be like, what? I don't like it. All this cartoon, remove them. Remove all these cartoons, and put this, put that. I don't know what I would want you to put outside. Okay, look for a picture of little children. I need that. Look for a picture of children in an amusement park. I need that. Now, you handling the project, how are you going to feel? So you see, the fact that it's pretty to you does not always mean that it's going to pass the message. So the number one secret you should know as a top level designer, I am talking to you as a top level designer. The number one secret you have to know as a top level designer is that pretty doesn't always count. The fact that your design is beautiful may fit into the design specifics of a reality show or a fashion show. It may not fit into the design specifics of a boutique or a school. So that you can use a software and do amazing designs, that you can use a software and do designs that come out, does not mean I, the owner of the project, will accept it. So I'll quickly tell you what to do with all of these secrets. So that's number one. Pretty doesn't always count. Number two, for you to be a top level graphic designer, you don't need to spend a fortune. You don't need to spend a fortune. What you need as a graphic designer is a computer system that maybe is on the average. It could be a laptop, It could be a desktop. That's one thing you need, and then the softwares. Okay, so you don't need to spend all you have to become a graphic designer. To call yourself top level means number one, you've got the year, you've put in the work in it, you've gotten the experience, you've made the mistakes. Very important. You can never, okay, you're free to quote me on this one now. I may be wrong, okay, but I want to put it to you that you can never be top level in anything you are doing without mistakes. The reason is because mistakes build you. Now, you're not out there to intentionally make mistakes. You're out there to carry out projects. And in the process of carrying out that project, even before it comes out as top notch, there's got to be one mistake or the other. So, you don't need to spend all you have to become a graphic designer. As a matter of fact, you must not go to a computer training institute. You must not go to a school and acquire a graphic design certificate. Hell, I didn't even. Let's not venture into that. The next is graphic design, or branding as it were, is a special skill, and not all designers do it well. This is important. I studied computer science and I studied computer engineering. I studied computer science in a state polytechnic. I started all over and then started studying computer engineering. I am not per se using my certificate as an engineer. I am not per se using my certificate as a computer scientist. But here I am, an ICT personnel, a graphic designer. Now, there are schools out there that are dedicating departments and courses to teach you how to be a graphic designer. Much respect to people who are studying graphic design in school, but you really don't need it to be a top level graphic designer. Now, when you go to study graphic design in school, they teach you the in thing about it. It's just like studying music in school. Must you go to school to study music? Or you can be a good musician. So this is what I'm saying. While it is important that you go and acquire a good education or get good knowledge about what you're trying to venture into, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is a prerequisite to becoming a top level graphic designer. Okay. Now, the next is design is not just about Photoshop, CorelDRAW, GIMP, Inkscape, PhotoPaint, Illustrator, InDesign. Which other crazy software is out there? Name it, a lot of them. That is not what design basically is. Design is about psychology. You don't know it, you don't know it. You may study medicine and surgery in school. It doesn't make you a good surgeon. It doesn't make you a good doctor. I know lawyers. They studied law in school, fulfilled all righteousness. One is out there posting adverts of cars and lands on social media. What is a lawyer doing selling cars? I sometimes sit back and try to find out. That I think very widely, and sometimes when I see things like that, it gets me thinking. So, in as much as some of the disciplines out there, you need a formal education to really fit in or even be qualified to call yourself one, because at this moment, I don't even care about being registered in Korean, and as such, I cannot call myself an engineer. But you don't need it. You don't need a formal education to use it. And then you also should know that being in a particular profession, it's not just about the tools you use to work. Being in a particular profession is also about the psychology. And if you have it up here, you have it up here. The fact that you know how to use Photoshop does not make you a graphic designer. The fact that you know how to use CorelDRAW does not make you a graphic designer. What makes you a graphic designer is what you have upstairs. I could do a lot of things and get them right. But this is one thing I do that I can spend all my night doing without complaint. I've worked night after night on projects that didn't earn me so much more than they should earn me. While I was starting off, this is how I learned graphic design. Let me just break it down here. I learned graphic designing by standing behind somebody doing design. And that is sparingly. Once in a while, I could just stand. And then inside me, I have this feeling that this is what I should be doing. Gradually, when I got exposed to the software, I started every single thing I do about design, I learned myself. Why? Because I know I've got it in me. All right? I know inside me, I can think about creative things that I want to do, and then, I'll put them down and it comes out nice. So you see, design isn't just about using the tool, it's also about psychology. The more designers know about how their consumers function and how their consumers behave and what makes them take one action or react in one way or the other, or get to buy something, the more you know about your consumers, the more you become a better person in the career of graphic design that you have chosen. And then here we are at the very last lap of what we are doing tonight, and that is we've actually spent an hour here. Wow, time flies. All right, let's talk about pricing design works and creativity. This is an important one. um there is no career that you would move into, however you like it, that if it doesn't earn you money, that you stay back. Okay, let me put it differently. You cannot continue to cook. I don't like food like that, or I'm not a foodie. I'm not a certified foodie, but let me use food as an example. You cannot continue cooking something that is refusing to done. Shey, that's how they call it. You cannot continue in a profession that doesn't help you pay the bill. The passion is amazing and is important that you have passion for what you're doing. But if you're not earning rightly, then you're either not doing it well or you are in the wrong direction. So let's talk a little bit about how to price your designs and then your creative works. Number one very important thing to know is do not charge per hour. A lot of persons do designs, and then when you ask them how much they want to charge, they'll tell you, I charge per hour, 500 naira per hour. Okay, bravo. I'll pay you 1,000 naira, and that sums up to 2 hours. I need my flyer in 2 hours. And when you don't deliver in 2 hours, for whatever reason, you have breached a contract, you are supposed to refund me. That is because you use your head, say they charge per hour. Charging per hour may be nice in some aspects, but it is highly advised against. You have spent years learning what you know. Now, if you're charging per hour and then you charge me, let's say, 5,000 naira for 1 hour, and then I sit down with you in 15 minutes, you're done, and I like what you did, I appreciate it, it blew my mind, but I paid you for 1 hour, you used 15 minutes, do the math, you're refunding me something. It's as simple as that. Now, you could be able to start making arguments. I've used 15 years to learn what I poured down in 15 minutes. My brother, my sister, we bargained for 1 hour. Pay me back for 45 minutes. So that's number one mistake people make when charging for design works and creativity. Number two, very importantly, charge for value. Very importantly, charge for value. Before you charge, before you give quotation for a job, you should be very aware of what you're trying to do, the value is going to bring to the person you're doing it for. It is very important. If you're doing a logo design, why am I always going back to logo? If you're doing a logo design for a juice breeding firm, a juicing firm, let me not speak plenty English. If you're doing a logo for a juice breeding firm, and then another logo for a car dealership company, If, for instance, you're going to charge the juicer 50,000 naira for a logo, logos cost as much as that. Seriously, a good logo can cost up to 150,000 naira. If you're going to charge 50K for the juicer, because of the value it's going to bring the juicer, maybe the person at the moment is small scale, and the logo you have done may not stand the test of time, let's say for 50 years. 50 is too far, let's say for 10 years, because a lot of businesses either change direction or overhaul in 5 years. So let's say while they're overhauling in the next 5 years, your logo may fade away, and you have it in mind. Maybe because of the specifics the person gave to you and you're charging 50K for that. That's the value you're gaining for that logo, for that little that effort you're putting in. Now, let's talk about the car dealership company. There is an example, a car dealership company that is on the rise now, and that's Cars24. Go and look at Cars24's logo. Cars24's logo, as simple as it is, it catches the eye. If you are doing design for a firm like that, my brother, my sister, charge for what that logo is going to mean to the company. Let's turn it upside down. Access and Diamond, recently, Diamond Bank and Access Bank in Nigeria recently swapped. Is it that they merged or they merged themselves? I don't even understand. But what happened is that at the end of the day, the two banks came together and then they came up with a logo. I saw the logo. The week the logo came out, the week it was unveiled. On flat design, I stand bold to say that I can do better. On illustration, on production, the logo is amazing. And then it makes me start saying, wow, if I were the one that won the project to do this job, would I have been able to do something that when you produce it, it becomes this amazing? So while I have much respect for the person who did that job, I also want to believe that if I do that project, I'll do something in a different dimension. Why? Because the creativity of two people, while they may align, they may not be the same. And so if I do a design for a juicer for 50K and I'm doing a design for Access Bank, really? You think I'll do that design for 300K? No, I would not dare do it for 300K. Why? Because the value the logo is going to bring them will be worth more than 300K. Why? The logo is going to be going on clothes. It's going to be going on mugs, on notepads, on their teller, and everything printable, even online. And sometimes the video guy, even the FX guy is going to use the logo and twist it in such a way that it's going to come out with a very beautiful video commercial. Now, that value, I can go for 1.5. Yes. And I will not ask for royalty. Why? Because if they agree to pay me 1.5, I'll collect that 1.5, close my eye like this, face it this side and go away. I've done a project, all right? Every time I see the logo reused, I become so happy that I produced something. That's it. That is value. Charging for value. If you're doing a logo for an airline, then you should know that logo is going to be pasted on the aircrafts. And then the aircrafts are going to be leaving the shores of the country. What that means is that you now, in small Nigeria, you're doing a design that is going all over the world. I was in Nigeria. I am in Nigeria. And this is where I was when I did the design of Ample Liberty logo. They are using it to shoot music videos even in the US. Small me now. I'm here doing that kind of project. I've been here and I've done designs that has gone to Ghana, Togo, name it. I've not crossed one small border. How much did I charge for the design? The only one I charged well was Ample Liberty. I consider it that I charged it well because I didn't really calm down to understand the value the logo is going to bring for them. So when I charged based on the value I thought, it happened that even after they made payments, the value became even much more. And so this is me. I charged for value, but I undervalued it. That's a mistake you shouldn't make. Now, the next is consider local industry standard. Local industry standard. I stay in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. And the industry standard here is crazy. you would see someone that would want you to do a design, a flyer, for instance, and then the person will be pricing you 500 naira. 500 naira for a whole life poured into flyer. That is suicidal, but that is the industry standard. And then I, being a freelancer, would say, okay, if you want me to do this project for you, I'll charge you 2,000 naira. So many of the times, low paying clients, there are low paying clients that are there to kill you as a creative. A low paying client will tell you, is it not 500 they are paying for it? I've seen people make such comments to me. I'll tell them gladly, go to so street in so place, you will get it 300 naira. Pure and simple. But if you want me to do this project for you, because you know what I can do, then you pay me what my money is worth. You pay me what I'm worth. If you are not going to pay what I'm asking for, then I will not deliver this project. It's as simple as it is. You cannot price me 500 naira to do an e-flyer for you, and I'll pour my life into the project, leaving other more important project that will pay me more, and do your 500 naira flyer. Why? Why there are people in business centers who can do that? Why would I stress myself to do that? That is how much I value myself and my creativity. My creativity cannot be priced for 500 naira. Hello, what is 500 naira? Is it enough for transport? I am paying bills, and when I start considering a lot of those things, I cannot always charge what the industry standard is. For me to stay on top of my game, I need to continually improve myself. And continuous improvement means continuous development. It means also that I will continually invest in my self-improvement. Now, if I keep doing 500 naira design, how many times will I do a design for me to get 50,000 naira that I used to pay for a software that I used to do the design? Thank you. Okay, now, okay, let's consider the number of concepts you're going to use to do the design and the number of corrections you're going to make. Currently, I have a client I rejected, a troublesome, underpaying client. There are people like that. I started the design. We agreed on a certain amount of money to be paid. And then, every single day, we keep doing correction. For 2 months, the correction is not done. Now, I did not envisage the fact that after I drop my creativity on paper, after I drop it and I am done, we'll keep doing correction. What I expect of somebody giving me a project is to put everything in order before I start work. And that is why I insist every other time, for me to touch your project, you must have played your part so that I'll play my part. And so, if I want to charge you because of the number of corrections we are making, I'll charge you per correction. And let's say I'm charging, on a lighter note, let's say I'm charging 1,000 or 1,005, depending on the scale of the correction per correction. If I'm charging you 1,000 per correction, 10 times means you're paying me 10,000 naira. But if I was to charge you as per normal and regular charging, I could charge you 5,000 naira. That is after you must have done your part. So what that means is, no matter the number of corrections, although I'll place a threshold, it will not come and disturb the projects I have to do. So when you're charging for your creativity, you need to remember to put into consideration the concepts you're going to use, that's one, and then the number of corrections you're going to make. I've done a lot of logo designs in my life that I cannot remember. I enjoy logo design. It's something that helps me express myself. I enjoy it. But where I go to get inspiration for that logo design, you would not believe it. Sometimes it could be along the road. Sometimes it could be a music that will inspire a logo design. Sometimes it could be other people's projects. Okay, for instance, doing a logo design, a Nigerian, you don't speak Arabic, and you're doing a logo design for an Arabic company, you should understand that somehow you should integrate the language of that Arabic language into the design. Now, that is a concept. If you're supposed to charge for a logo like that, a logo that you're going to put a language you don't understand, and you're supposed to use Google Translator to translate that, you must have to charge it well. Why? Because if there's going to be a fallback on the project where the Google Translator gave you a wrong translation, and then there's going to be a fallback on the project, it will be required of you to start all over again to redo the design. And then you'll be needing the service of a language translator in human flesh. How much are you going to pay the person to translate a certain language? Okay, let's say you're on a project for a Yoruba canteen, and then the person is saying Mama Ayo's food. That's the name of her canteen. Now, and he wants you to do the design in Yoruba. If you don't understand the Yoruba language, you don't speak the Yoruba language, how are you going to do that without the help of a Yoruba? Now, is the person going to do the translation for you free of charge because of familiarity or they know you? Or is the person going to do the translation free of charge because they are fed by ravens bringing meat and honey and bread? The answer is yours. Now, the very last thing there is to avoid emotional and sentimental charging. Sentiment does not pay the bill. Emotions does not pay the bill. While it is important that you consider relationships in business, it is also very important for you to remember that sometimes when you run into cash problems, a lot of the relationships you've been building over time that you expect you've been banking on to help you when you're in trouble will remind you that they too, they have trouble that they need to sort out. So when you're charging for your creativity, for instance, you're a writer, and I've seen books that are sold for 30,000. I follow Ediri Edewo, much respect to her. She's an amazing personality and she has done a lot of the things I've not been able to achieve. She's amazing. I follow Ediri Edewo and I know one of her books, she sells it 30K. Okay. I'm family. I come to Ediri. How far now? I want to buy this your book. How far? You say 30K. Forget that thing. You're not going to give me like 2K. What you're selling 2K, is it the energy and the knowledge you poured into the production, or the life you've spent gaining the knowledge? And so when you're charging, you need to balance your charging. Balance it in such a way that it doesn't become too expensive for your client to pay, and it doesn't become too small for your client to devalue what you're producing. Now, if your price is way up there is a client for every level of charging. So if your price is up there is somebody who will be able, who will be willing as well to pay the bill. But then, if your price is way down here, somebody will be tempted to devalue what you have. And that is the reason why a lot of people go for free stuff. Free stuff does not always carry value as much as what paid stuff carry. And so when you're charging, you try and balance. Thank you very much. I see the comments coming in. I really appreciate it, and we are almost done. Balance is key. Thank you so much for reminding me that. Try and balance your charging, considering also industry standard. If you are charging for your creativity, remember the energy and the life you have poured into what you're doing. Charge in such a way that the value of your work will be retained. That is one. Two, charge in such a way that the customer would also want to be a return customer. Because if you're dealing with one-time customers, then you're not making impact. Because services are just about making impacts in people's lives, not just about making sales. You don't go to sell something to somebody and sell it as just a one-off. Sometimes it becomes very important that for you to grow in business, you need to maintain return customers. So when you're charging in such a way that the value of your product is retained, you also charge in such a way that people would have to return for that same service or refer people back. All right, I really do hope you're getting value from what we are doing. Okay, I think that's it about charging for your creativity, but I have a few tidbits for you. And that is, I think I wrote it down here. If you care about the quality of your work, raise the bar, raise your price. Number one. If you care about the success of your clients, raise the price. Why? Because quality deliveries bring the likelihood of your client's success. Okay. Let me stop at two before I go to the third one. If you care about the quality of your own work, raise the bar, raise the money, so that people will value your work. Why? Because there is quality in what you're giving out. And then secondly, if you care about the success of your clients, you raise the money. Why? Because whenever you raise your price, inside of you, in your subconscious, you come up with the weight of trying to meet up and deliver something that is worth the money they are paying. And that makes you deliver a quality product. And then the quality product from your end helps grow the business of your clients. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying. If I do a quality design, I keep saying that simplicity is complicated enough. And that is why I go for simplicity. If I do a simple but quality design for you, something that catches the eye in context of the industry and the consumer we are talking about, is going to make people come more for your services. But if I just do a whack design, some time ago, I had a travel agent that always approaches me to do work for him, designs for him. He is a friend. And so I started out doing just giveaways. That was a very big mistake. While it's okay to do giveaways, it's not okay to use giveaway to form a foundation of a business relationship. A business relationship is different from an emotional or anyhow relationship. That is what I'm saying. A business relationship is different. A business relationship, wow, we still have a lot of people requesting to join and we're almost done. I hope they get value. A business relationship is different from a family or any kind of relationship. I will illustrate. When you're starting out a business, the people that will value you first are strangers. Family, family, family will look down on you and on your work. It is natural. Why? Over familiarity. Simple, plain and simple. Friends will lack the belief in you. Why? Over familiarity, plain and simple. And so you don't get to keep considering relationships like that because you want to bring them in to believe in what you're doing. No. That is a very big mistake you don't do. And so it got to a point that I started requesting for money. I told him, if you want me, Noble, to do your project for you, you would pay money. Plain and simple. Immediately he found out how serious I was, that he would start paying for my services, he bonked out. He never came to me again. And so what is that to tell me? He was banking on my emotions and the fact that we are friends for me to help him grow his tourism firm. I mean, it's growing. In the designs I was giving to him brought him more customers, but he never gave a dime. And then the next thing he did was to boil down to the level of my assistant to start doing the design for him. I ran into my assistant doing that design. I gave him a very simple advice. Watch out for yourself. This guy is a predator. Now, that's a harsh thing to say about someone, but it's a fact. I told him, do designs for this guy when you're free, but watch out for yourself. After that very first design, he came up to me, was like, sir, I will not do a design for this guy again. I was like, why? He said, this guy did this. And I'd be like, okay, I didn't get to tell you all of these things because it's not necessary to spoil someone's image in front of you. It's usually very okay. While I give you a coded information as to what to expect, it's okay that you find out a few things about yourself. All right, I said the first thing about my tidbits is if you care about the quality of your work, you raise the price. If you care about the success of your client, you raise the price. And then, lastly, if you care about the success of your freelance business, you raise the price. Why? Because when you raise the price, you see, money has a way of attracting value, plain and simple. When you raise the price of what service you're rendering, people would know that your service is not very much affordable, but then the quality you produce backs up the price that you go. And that's the difference between 5-star hotel to, is there 2-star? Yeah, okay. There are even hotels that don't have stars. There are 5-star hotels, 4-star hotels, and 4-course meal, Abby. And then there are 2-star hotel, 1-star, and then hotels that don't have stars. Uh-huh. There's a difference between the non-star hotel and the 5-star hotel quality of service. It does not mean that when you go there you will not sleep and wake up. No. But it means that in one hotel you have a room with AC. In the other hotel you have a room with mosquito. So you choose the difference. Yeah, the price you set determines the profit you make. Okay, you work with material, and every material goes through wear and tear. So the price you set determines the profit you make. The profit you make determines the energy you devote in the work you do, and then the energy you devote in the work you do determines the ability to offer the best services. And so that is it. There is this correlation between this agreement between money and quality. Okay, there is this agreement between money and quality. If I pay more for a service, I expect more from that service. And then if you're going to charge me more for a service I can get for cheaper, then you're going to give me more quality service than I would get when I pay cheaper for it. And so when you're charging, please be careful enough to understand that you need to charge. Thank you very much, Lizzie Former, for joining. You have joined when we are about to say, may the grace of our Lord. Okay, so the price you set should also be able to point you towards quality. If you are not willing, listen, if you know that the level of your production, productivity, creativity is not up to the level of charging 100,000 naira for a project, respect yourself and stay out of police case. I'm talking to creatives. Yeah, I've been mentioning graphic design, but fashion designers are in it as well. Brand strategists and developers are in it as well. Everybody who creates something, who is an entrepreneur, every single one of them are in it as well. If you charge more and deliver less, the Nigerian police is calling you. It's like somebody saying, I'm trying to put it on a lighter note, but the point I'm making is this: be careful enough to charge for something that agrees with the quality you're producing. And that's about it. Thank you very much, everybody that tuned in. Thank you very much, Rosemary. Thank you, Chika, Liz Ifoma, and a lot of other persons that may be watching on the replay, and the people who have tuned in and have left, maybe because of network or time. We've spent so much time on it, about an hour 30 minutes. I did not plan for you to come this way. Thank you so much. And then just on a bit to wrap it up, if you are a creative and you really want to learn graphic design, I encourage you to do so. Why? The flyer I sent out for this project, this meeting we have tonight, says you should fire your graphic designer. And of course, you should fire them if they're not doing well. And so, not to keep you here out long, there are some mobile apps that you can use to do your design. A lot of the flyers I did there, I did with Canva. So, thank you very much for tuning in. This happens to be the very first online webinar I have. Yeah, is it online? It's just webinar now. If it's web anything, then it's online. It happens to be my very first webinar, and so I'm really grateful for a lot of you who have tuned in. I really do appreciate. I am coming up with a book. I've been working on a book about graphic design for some time, and I'll be bringing it out after a short while, just so people will really know what graphic design is and how to make it in the graphic design and creative industry. And so when my book is out, I would inform you so you would know. The idea about the book is not just to write a book. I've been writing for some time. The idea is to open people's eyes as to what the profession is and what to do with it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I remain Noble Amugo. Noble Serial. Yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for joining me for an hour, 30 minutes. Good night. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, if you gained value, I see a lot of the comments. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. I didn't even know that people like you would watch and then get to comment on the things you've seen. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate. My mind was to give value, and I hope you got something. Thank you so much. Good night.